Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. We're going to be going over my tips today for round 3 of the 2025 AFL season. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you do go on to enjoy today's video. Let's begin. So everyone, my tips from round 2. The previous round I got myself a 4 out of 8, so probably on the lower end of tips correct for this round. The tips we did get incorrect were Essendon, Geelong, Melbourne and also Fremantle. Going through the round, Hawthorn, just a safe bet and got the margin spot on. It was 20 points in the end and that's what I tipped them by. The Pies, very close game, controversial finish, but credit obviously to the Bulldogs, a very hardy performance, obviously given their milestone game. The Dons, too much faith in them, too much faith, and they got absolutely poleaxed by over 10 goals from the Crows. They look the goods you'd think this year, looking great early on. Port Adelaide bounced back, and then yeah, the Saints just have the wood over the 𝐓𝐴𝐷 at Marvel. They moved the footy exceptionally well against them, really picked apart them across the ground. The Lions, bit of a scare against the Eagles. North Melbourne, very special win. It's their first big win in quite some time, so it means a lot to the supporter base, no doubt. And didn't back in my Swannies. Thought Fremantle, expected them to win, and they probably should have won with the opportunities they had late, but the Swans stole it with the last 2 goals of the game to clinch the win in the West. And a quick look now at my tipping competition leaderboard update. No one in the competition did give themselves a full 8 out of 8 scores, so the only person we can really shout out this week is the leader, which is 𝐼𝐴𝐿 United with a total score of 29 points. So let's begin with the tips for round 3. We start on the Thursday night. Essendon taking on Port Adelaide at Marvel Stadium. This is just a bounce back, absolutely needed for the Dons, who were shocking and have had a disappointing start to 2025. Got absolutely well beaten across all facets of the game by the Crows of the G last week. Granted, they are fielding one of the more younger teams in the comp and they were really missing the likes of Ridley back there, but just defensively picked apart way too easily. Adelaide's forward half power really got to them, but just how they're defending, it's not good enough. They just give up way too many uncontested possessions. Adelaide were able to carve their way through, and their pressure and their tackling ability has been a big letdown as well. And the connection issues forward of centre continue just to be an issue. They're a side not really showing great chemistry at the moment. But no matter how bad Essendon have of a performance and get slated by the media, it always feels like the next week they come out and play a much more stronger brand and really bring it up to their opposition. So I could say it's a bit of a danger game for Port Adelaide, who got the job done last week against the Tigers. Were able to outhunt the Tigers in their pressure game and also contested game to get a massive win. And now facing Essendon, who are needing a bounce back, will be a bit more of a tougher test for them. They are pretty good at Marvel Stadium though, so that is an advantage heading their way. The Dons also going to be without 𝐼𝐿𝐴𝐷𝐼𝐿 and 𝘖𝐴𝐴𝐷𝐿. Sardis actually had, I think, game high clearances with only about 60% time on ground, so that's a bit of an out. And also Perkins can run through there and have a bit of creativity, so they are some key outs, no doubt. As I've just said before, I think Essendon will play a much more stronger brand and really bring it up to Port Adelaide, but I just think Port, on paper, and very good at Marvel too, I think they'll clinch out the Dons here. The Dons have been struggling defensively. Port love to use the corridor. I think they can really catch them out with their ball movement through the middle of the park. So yeah, Port Adelaide I think win this game, and we'll tip them here by 14 points. Next up, Friday night footy, we have the Blues taking on the Dogs at Marvel Stadium once again. This is just a massive game for both opposition. The Dogs have obviously notched up a win, whilst Carlton, they can't afford to go to 0-3 with this game. They showed better signs in round 2, unlike their round 1 performance against the Tigers. They showed a bit more dominance around the footy. As for the Dogs, they'd be fired up heading into this game with a very narrow loss to the Pies. To be fair, Collingwood probably should have scored a little bit more. They left it on the table and left the door open for the Dogs to try and win, but it was a gallant performance, so I think they're going to continue that form heading next week and make it tough here for the Blues. Sam Darcy's the real threat looking so far this season up forward for the Dogs. Just those long arms, very hard to beat out even against some of the competition's elite. Wiedering, you'd think he will be taking the job on him. Carlton really need to start showing more connection forward to centre, because they don't think they have too many issues on being able to win it at the source. It's just how they use it, especially in transition. It's been a letdown for them so far this year. Dogs might still have their outs, but they've had some nice plays run through the midfield and show a bit of dominance. Fraser's had a nice stint in there, and Ed Richards probably been one of their best plays so far this year. Tricky game to tip here. I think the Dogs are narrow favourites, but I still got my faith in the Blues. I think they've got to have a performance where it clicks, and they've shown some good signs, especially last week, but they just couldn't get it going. But I think this is the game where they are going to get it going. If they can outdo the Dogs in the midfield, the Bulldogs have been prone to be a bit shaky in defence as well. I think the Blues can find a way to win this game. Expect them to play with a bit more of a ferocious brand, because they are really searching for that first win. So I'll tip the Blues here in a pretty cagey affair, but I reckon they'll get the job done here. Get the win over the Dogs and win this one by 16. Now for the Saturday games. First one up at 1:20 PM, we've got the D's taking on the Suns at the MCG. geez, Melbourne found out terribly against North Melbourne, and there's just questions now, is their season done? Are their stars and veterans like Gawn done? Like, I think it's just all a bit reactionary. They are still a good team on paper, and, you know, back at the G, they were pretty promising against the Giants. I expect a much more stronger performance here. They just can't allow to get absolutely belted around the footy like they were against North Melbourne, but Gold Coast, there's certainly an opposition that could do the same. Noah Anderson, Matt Rowell, 𝐓𝐿 𝐎𝐿𝐼 in there as well. They belted and brained the Eagles back in round one. Around the footy, their contested game, very, very strong. Coming off the bye as well, they could perhaps be a wee bit rejuvenated. Melbourne's defence has been a bit of a problem too to start off the year. The absence of Stephen May is really hurting. Sides have been able to produce some fast ball movement, get some goals out the back and off the turnovers. So if the Suns can really bring that, I think that can put on a bit of a score here. Very predictable ball movement once again for Melbourne to start off this season too. So it's a bit of the same old really. But similar to the team that's playing on Thursday night of Essendon, I just feel like the D's just need a bounce back here. And back at the MCG, usually when they play their best brand. And the Suns are still a bit of a question mark. I'll go with the D's here. A bit more of a safer tip, just at home, I feel. I think they can get a really strong response from their midfield core, and Gawn can have a bounce back game here too. Like the Suns' prospects here and the Melbourne's weaknesses, like their connection and their defence, especially in transition, worries me a bit, but I'll back them in here, a bit of a safe tip. So I'll go Melbourne in this one and a close win by 6. And then for 4:15 p.m, we've got the Saints taking on Richmond at Marvel Stadium. It was a really good performance against the Cats. They just know how to beat them over there at Marvel Stadium. It seems at Marvel, that's where the Saints really get their strong ball movement going. They were really clean on being able to transition the footy against the Cats, and especially their pressure was just through the roof. Ross Lyon has said that throughout the start of the year. They really want to adopt more of a ferocious attack around the contest, and that's what we did see. Facing the Tigers, who certainly want to bounce back with their disappointing outing against Port Adelaide. They're going to be a wee bit up and down this year. It was a reality check, let's be honest here. Still a very young side, but they want a response here. A lot more pressure like they were able to produce in round one is an absolute must for the Tigers to be a chance to maybe even win this game, or at least be in the contest. Remember, the Saints are still probably going to be a side that will be up and down this year, but could they lose against the Tigers here of a very promising performance against the Cats? I can't really see it. So I'll back in the Saints here with this tip. I think they can out-hunt the Tigers around the footy, but also really get them with their solid ball movement like they're able to do at Marvel Stadium. So we'll tip the Saints here. They'll win this one by 4 goals, 24 points. And then for the Saturday night games, have a look at this, eh? We've got Hawthorn and the Giants, Brisbane and the Cats at the same time. I mean, what is this for fixturing? Anyways, let's start down in Launceston, however you say it. It's the Hawks versus the Giants. This is a great contest. Both these sides just seem to have close games. It was a very close game at Utah's last year with the Hawks just getting up, and then the Giants pipped them in Canberra last year. So yeah, it's a really good head-to-head matchup, this one. People saying this is the grand final preview. You could probably say that early on. These are two quality sides, both top 4 teams to kick off the season. Neither team is yet to lose a game. Hawthorn definitely looking like the benchmark for this season, no doubt. Just how they're playing, just a real cohesive unit. They are one of the best foot users from what we've seen so far of 2025, just how they're able to pick apart their way across the ground, get out of trouble with some clean kicks into the corridor or down the line, and really transition the ball well. It's game changing, and where sides have been able to beat them around the footy, it's where Hawthorn really get them with their class and their turnover game and some nice goals from the back half. So definitely the challenges for the Giants, not only get top of the footy, but also bring some of their strong ball movement going. But they are one of the best pressure sides in the competition, so if they can, get a lot of repeated entries, force the turnovers in dangerous positions, that's where the Giants can really capitalise. And also these sort of fixtures, Giants playing away from home in these very obscure locations, they just find ways to win these sort of games. It's a tough one, but I'll stick with the Hawks in this one. I just think how they've kicked off this year is very promising. I assume the loss will be due soon because they have looked beatable around the footy, as I've said before, but the Giants aren't necessarily one of the better contested sides. So yeah, I think the Hawks can really do them here with some strong ball movement, but also they're looking really settled defensively. When the ball goes in their defensive 50, they just mop it up so well. But hey, the Giants can bring the pressure. I like them here, but I'll back in the Hawks with this one. In a close game, we'll go either way, but the Hawks pip it and win it by 5 points. And then at the exact same time, we have Brisbane taking on the Cats at the Gabba. Of course, this is the rescheduled game with the cyclone that did occur back in opening round. But this is a really intriguing match. The Cats did have a few injury problems last week. Bailey Smith didn't play. Tom Stewart also went off early with a PCL injury, but I'm hearing at the moment both are more likely to be back in the side for this week. So massive inclusions, especially especially with Bailey Smith. They really lack that that drive through the middle of the park. And also with the Cats, they rarely do play 2 bad games in a row here. So I think they'll be bouncing back here and having a much better performance. But can they trump the Lions? They've looked beatable with their first 2 games. The Swans got the jump on them early, and so with the Eagles. But those were, to be fair, both pretty warm games. And I just feel like night-time game here, the conditions will be a bit better for both sides. I expect Brisbane to start this game a lot more strongly. They were one of the best starting sides as well from last year too. The Cats can't allow this for 2 weeks in a row, just opposition sides moving the ball against them far too easily. And Brisbane, we all know they love to control the footy through their uncontested game. The Saints picked them apart on that last week, so got to bring that front half pressure. They were just brutal at that against the Dockers back in round 1. Really got their front half game going. The Smalls were heavily involved. Tricky one to tip here, to be honest. I think with the Cats, with their inclusions, I think a lot of people sleeping on them, but I might have to be another that will snooze on them here. I like them, but I just think Brisbane, you know, nighttime game here at the Gabba, they're usually very strong in these games, especially with clear conditions. I think their midfield will be able to trump the Cats around the football, and just with their control on how they're able to move the ball, should get the job done here. So, and I'm think also they're going to get Kyle Lohmann and Charlie Cameron back for this game, I'm pretty sure. So, big inclusions. So, got to go the Lions in this game. Close contest, but they'll run away with this one and win by 15. And then for the Sunday games, 2 games here. So, why can't we have a Saturday night game as one of the Sunday games? Just still makes no sense. But anyways, 3:20 p.m. we've got the Crows taking on North Melbourne at the Adelaide Oval. How good was it to see North Melbourne get their first win? It's just refreshing as a neutral. We want to see some change in the AFL competition this year, and they just absolutely brained the Demons, a very notoriously strong contested side, in their own good games. So it's promising signs looking at that young midfield. I think Parker's also a big inclusion as well. He was huge on their link-up play. You know, a bit of bias saying that because I'm a Swans man, but he looked very solid. But it's going to be a tough test here against Adelaide, who are also a team that's looking like they're going to be having a sharp turn this year from what we've seen early on. One of the most damaging sides in the competition in their first 2 games. I think first in the comp with points off turnover. They've been fairly weak opposition, to be fair. But just how they're moving it is so damaging. They're quick, and they are getting all their stars involved as well. Quick forward hand passing game. They spread so quickly too, and damaging in that forward half with the names too, with 𝐼𝐴𝐴 𝐴𝐿𝐼. Walker started the season really well. Isaac Rankin running through the midfield, kicking some lovely goals. They're looking like the complete package, and it's still very early days, but I think I can talk them up and give them a bit of confidence here. Playing a side like North Melbourne at home. Don't want to disrespect them too much here, but you know, when Adelaide really get going at home, they are one of the toughest teams to beat at this particular venue. North can definitely make this a contest, no doubt, if they are able to really win the contest in and under, like they did against the Demons last week. They scored, I think, around 8 goals from stoppage and a lot of goals in the final quarter from centre bounce, so they could gain some ascendancy in that area, but it's just hard to tip them here. With what the Crows have showed so far this year, they're looking electric with their ball movement. Got to go with the Crows here in this one. So, yeah, I think they'll win this one well, and maybe even throughout, but I reckon the Crows run away with it and win it by 25 points. Which leaves the last game of the round, the Western Derby. And geez, does this one have a bit of a spin on it now? Fremantle have the chance to go 0-3, and the Eagles would love to do that. And could that be the case? I certainly think it could. We have had some pretty unpredictable results in the past, especially last year. The Eagles smacked the Dockers. Harley Reid had a breakout game, so it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. For sure, it was an impressive performance by the Eagles with their head out against Brisbane, but ran out of petrol tickets late. Just thought the more classy side were able to really get their game going, but Tyrell Dewar, he was a Cat B rookie, I'm pretty sure. How good was he on the wing? Creating some nice chances, had 2 goals, 20 touches. With the absence of Hutchison, he's been able to fill in the void pretty nicely. And then Clay Hall had a pretty nice game too in there, and Tim Kelly thought he was a lot better than his round 1 game. Will they bring Flynn back in for this game, or will they hold Bailey Williams? It looked like Williams was a bit more promising than what Flynn showed, but to be fair, Flynn did play wits. Home game also for the Eagles too, so I'm going to be getting plenty of support, and there's just so much pressure on the Dockers. I thought they were honestly very disappointing. Yeah, they had the chances late to knock off the Swans, but still the same old. Their connection going inside 50, just a lot of long bombs, not lowering their eyes. They just didn't have really much of the class, and they had a lot of repeat entries in that final quarter, just couldn't make it stick. And it's also a bit of a concern, their own strength of the stoppage game. They've been beaten by the Cats and the Swans, not really the greatest stoppage sides, they've been able to beat them in that area, so they really want to respond there and really try and smack the Eagles around the footy. They've been a bit of a weakness with that in the past. Stranger things have happened with Western Derbies. I do sense an Eagles turnout here and a good performance, but I just don't have the confidence to do it. I think Fremantle, there's just so much pressure on them. They've got the stars to really get this done, and they'll be breathing fire with it dropping a disappointing one here. So, yeah, the Eagles could definitely see them getting up here, but I think the Dockers should get the win here. Just really beat them well around the football and show better connection forward of centre. So, yeah, bounce back here for the Dockers. I reckon it's going to be. We'll tip Freo on this one. And I think a pretty close one throughout, but the Dockers run away with it and win this one by 20 points. So everyone, they were my tips for round 3 of the 2025 AFL season. Let me know your tips down below in the comments section. There are a few tips that I think a lot of people are sleeping on. So are you going to go something against the grain, and will it pay off? From what we've seen, especially last week's performances, there are definitely some upset tips that did occur and could be on the cards for this round. So let me know down below in the comments. Thanks very much for tuning in, everybody, and until next time, I'll talk to you later. See you later, fellas.